So what do you think of the new setup? We get to sit when we talk now.
Yeah, I like being able to sit.
We've upgraded. We get the finer things in life.
Yep, chairs.
It's amazing. Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation, and today we're joined by Lane to discuss an army that he holds near and dear to his heart.
These are my babies, except not like my Votann babies, like my Deathwatch Space Marine babies.
And some of your bigger babies are going to be on the shelf for a little while.
Yeah, the Votann might be, I don't know. We'll see how their rules look, but I'm pretty impressed with the Deathwatch rules, so I'll probably be running those as my first army in 10th edition.
Spoiler alert, we're here to talk about Deathwatch. This is, like Lane said, he's planning on running these guys, so this is a really good opportunity, especially with all the leaks that were released today, to look at some of these. And we're going to spend a lot of time here on the Deathwatch. I don't think the Deathwatch get enough coverage and don't get enough credit for what they do. So it's nice to see that this is going to be the Marines that you're going to be bringing out here. And it is a lot of the same Marine stuff with only a couple modifications. Some very, very tiny ways that you're able to take units different. They're so minute. You won't even notice the difference. It'll look like a regular Marine army, right?
Here's the thing. Some people get a little frustrated when there's a new edition or a new set of rules because they want to try to play their army the same way they played it before, which is not the way it's going to work. There's still going to be powerful things and weaker things in each and every army, but when there's an edition change especially, but also when there's just a new codex or a lot of things, you have to change the way you build your army. Which is why I never sell off any of my old models or anything, because even if it's not real strong here, it might be strong, a year down the road or so.
And a lot of things also we're seeing going into this new edition with the way that we take units is going to be extremely different too. The joke that I was having at the RTT that I was at last weekend was, so right now with Tyranids, I could run 3 walking Hive Tyrants, 3 flying Hive Tyrants, a Swarm Lord, and that's a list. That's 7 Hive Tyrants in a list. And I know into 9th edition, a lot of people were getting rid of some of their Hive Tyrants because you could only run a fly or this, that, and it looked like, Games Workshop is never going to let everyone use multiple Hive Tyrants again. And here we are, Hive Tyrant spam.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's going to win, but for me personally, I like the idea of I'm going to take a Land Raider and how many characters can I shove in this thing? And whatever, that's it. I want 1 deploy. Boom, Land Raider, your turn. I don't know what that's going to do, except lose, most likely.
Right. It'll make you feel good. You get your models off the shelf. That's what it'll do for you.
Here, I'm deployed. I'm going to go use the restroom real quick. I'll be back. Go ahead, just deploy your army. We're good. So let's get into the Deathwatch. That's what we're here to talk about. And what we're looking at now, we still have no points. Still no points, so we still don't know what the army is fully going to look like. But with the character builds and how the characters interact, you can probably start putting together what are some units that you like and what are some things you're going to see. You already started talking to me about a couple list ideas and concepts. Obviously, a lot of that's weighed in on points, especially one specific thing, which we'll talk about shortly. But this is what the army is going to be. This is what you will have for special rules. This is Deathwatch in 10th edition. And Deathwatch in 10th edition starts off with their kill teams. So we were talking about this a little bit at the beginning because I wanted to understand it. In the Adeptus Astartes data sheets, the Space Marines, you get Oath of Moments. When you take this, you still get Oath of Moments. There's a little addendum on the bottom that says chapter and how you cannot take other things about the chapters, but it doesn't exclude the Oath of Moments. You still get that ability.
Correct.
What you lose is combat doctrines. So you get 2 things. 1, you get kill teams. So throw this out there real quick on what exactly is the definition of a kill team in 10th?
The technical definition of a kill team is when you take all your models and you dump them into a box and you root around and pull out a handful. Essentially it allows you to mix units of Marines, which no other chapter can really do. I think occasionally a Space Wolf unit might be able to put a Terminator in with the units that aren't Terminators. But
Space Wolves, yeah.
Yeah. With kill teams though in Deathwatch, they're able to take usually a base of 5 models, and then add, for example, the Proteus kill team is the firstborn kill team. You take 5 firstborn Deathwatch veterans, and then you can mix in some Terminators, some bike squads, some guys with jump packs, assault marines, all that sort of thing. And you can mix those in there, and they have different abilities they give the units. In past editions, they've given the units different abilities or access to different stratagems. Doesn't really seem like that's the way it works here, but they have access to different weapons and different movement profiles. So you can put a couple bikes into a kill team, and those two can kind of move a little bit faster than the rest of the squad. You still have to maintain coherency, but with their extended movement, you can get onto objectives a little sooner. With Terminators, you can tank some of the damage on a couple Terminators in the unit. With the veterans, they can take up to 4 heavy weapons in a 10-man squad, so you can squeeze a bunch of heavy weapons in there as well. So it allows you to really take advantage of the different Space Marine models. And they have 4 different kill teams, one for the firstborns, one for regular intercessor type Marines, one for the Gravis armor guys, and one for the Phobos armor guys.
Yep, and we'll get to all those later. Now, there's one thing, though, that you did say in there that I want to kind of clarify, that you said that you don't get a lot of kill team stratagems.
Well, it used to be, obviously, in 9th edition, we had a lot more stratagems. And for example, if I had a single jump pack model in a unit, for 1 CP, I could have that unit fall back and shoot.
Right.
But they had to have the jump pack in there. In 8th edition, just having the jump pack model gave you that ability. Without it. So each edition, it changes a little bit. Here, it just gives you a little bit of extra movement. It doesn't appear that as of the index, they really give the special abilities. In fact, they have a weird way of wording everything. For example, if you put an Eradicator in with some heavy intercessors, it's technically not an Eradicator. It's a heavy intercessor with a Melter rifle, because they don't get the Eradicator special rule of rerolling all hits and wounds and damage. Okay. Same thing like with Inceptors. And Inceptor, they have a special rule where they can deep strike outside of 3 inches. But when it's inside the kill team, it is a Gravis, it's a heavy intercessor with jump pack. It's a weird distinction. It has the same weapon options, the plasma guns or the assault bolters, but you'd lose the deep strike within 3 inches rule. So it's a weird way of wording it, but yeah, you don't get the special rules, but you get the weapons and the abilities.
And we're going to get down to all that thing, especially in the stratagems, where there are stratagems that do affect the kill teams.
Yeah.
But when I say the kill teams, now that's going into the wording of it. And we'll talk about that as we get over to the data sheets and start getting that stuff. Now, the one thing that I love about this, and I told Lane I'm mandating that one of the first models he builds for this army, if this ever occurs, is I want to see a Rhino with a bike rack on the front.
That's a great idea.
Because according to this, you are allowed to bypass all the transport restriction rules for your army. So the way this reads in words is, and I'll let Lane fill this in on a little bit here. For the purpose of determining which models can embark within a transport model, Kill Team Terminator models, Kill Team Outrider models, Kill Team Biker models, and models equipped with jump packs each take up the space of 2 models, but can otherwise embark within any transport their unit can embark within, even though similar models in other units may have the Terminator mounted or jump pack keyword. Terminators can go in Rhinos.
Terminators can go on Rhinos, bikes can go on Rhinos, yeah. But you still have to obey the limit. So we just checked. The Rhino has a transport limit now of 12.
Yep.
That's so you can put 10 Marines in there in a squad and maybe a character or 2. But it still only has a transport capacity of 12, and each Terminator counts as 2 models, each bike counts as 2 models, each jump pack counts as 2. So you can't really squeeze a whole lot extra in there. If you had a 10-man kill team, you could have 2 Terminators or 2 bikers, kind of fill it out there, and then you wouldn't be able to put characters with it. So I don't think it's super cool, the transports, just because you're still limited to the number of slots you have in there. But I mean, if you want to, if you really want to, you can put them in there.
Yep. You can be the guy who comes to the table and says, I'm embarking my Terminator in a Rhino.
Yeah.
And we'll get over which units can actually do that in a minute too for that. So, but yeah, for terrain features, here's another one as well too, which was similar last edition. I remember you doing this with the Outriders and stuff like that. You got bikes in a squad. Basically, they can breach the runes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It states, for the purpose of interacting with terrain features, all models in the unit with the kill team ability are treated as infantry, even if they have the mounted or jump pack keyword, which, because jump pack, they would ignore some of the difficult terrain. Now they're going to take that. But on the opposite, for the bikes, the mounted, they're running through walls.
Yep.
So that's a nice little benefit. So you have some mobility there. You have some way to do things that other armies can't with that matter of bikes.
Mhm.
But as we're soon going to see, the amount of bikes that you actually could do that with isn't an absurd amount when we're talking about kill teams. Because remember, this is all just the kill teams, those
Mhm.
specific units. All right. So before we get down to the kill teams, detachment special rules, restrictions. So you are allowed to draw from Adeptus Assaris, which is our Space Marine book. However, you cannot include any of the following units: Assault Squad with Jump Pack, Attack Bike, Devastator Squad, Land Speeder Storm, Scout Squad, Scout Sniper Squad, or a Tactical Squad. So Scouts and Firstborn. Take it away. What's up with the Firstborn?
Well, the Firstborn fit into the Proteus kill team, and you also have you can just take a basic Deathwatch veteran squad, and they have access to heavy weapons and jump packs and assault weapons and that sort of thing. So a lot of these things are kind of redundant.
But you're still allowed Space Marine veteran squad. Huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of the things that are kind of a bummer, the attack bikes squads are super nice. Attack bikes have been really good in 9th edition, especially when they got their free meltas. But they're still good little strong, fast, quick, hard-hitting units. You can jump on objectives early, so you can't take those attack bikes at all with the Deathwatch. Devastator Squad is another one because Deathwatch kill teams can really only have 3 heavy weapons: the Infernus Heavy Bolter, Frag Cannon, and a missile launcher. So you miss out on things like grav cannons. I heard grav cannons now are infantry or anti-tank 2-up, so they always wound vehicles on a 2-up. I don't have access to those, so with Deathwatch. So yeah, a few restrictions here, but it's all right.
Did you lose any models in the Deathwatch collection moving from 9th into 10th? Does this take anything out of your collection as unusable at this time?
This doesn't. The Forge World rules did.
I'm sorry. I'm not pouring salt in the wound there. I was
That was
actually
a big
curious
hurt.
about that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is.
No, this is very similar to the way it was in the previous edition. I had not been able to take attacks bikes before, or Devastators or Scouts, so it's very similar. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's go over into when we talk about Adeptus Assaris, when we talk about the Space Marines and how much you draw from there, we also talk about what you don't get versus what you get. You do not get combat doctrines.
Mhm.
Instead, you get mission tactics,
Yeah.
which hand over hand are basically combat doctrines, just changed for Deathwatch.
Yeah, they function very similar. Space Marine combat doctrines, you have 3 of them: Dev, Tech, and Assault. In Devastator Doctrine, you choose it, and once per game, you can be in Devastator Doctrine. Everything can advance and shoot. And Tactical, everything can fall back and shoot and charge. And in Assault, everything can advance and charge. So you can just choose one of those pre-battle round, and you can choose each one once. Obviously, there's some stratagem things and some enhancements that let you maybe give a unit those things for an extra turn.
Stay in a doctrine or be back in a doctrine that you've already passed.
But the Deathwatch mission tactics are very similar in that there's 3 of them. You choose one in your command phase, and it's effective for the entire battle round and affects your entire army, and you can use each one once. First off, the first one is oops. I didn't
I'm going to go up a little bit.
Yeah.
For
The first one is Führer Tactics. Your entire army gets sustained hits 1 on every single weapon.
Yep.
You just get extra hits. 6 is a hit, generate extra hits for every single.
No. Critical hits generate 6 to hit.
Right.
Or generate 6 to hit. Wow. Generate the additional hit because now if you have the ability to increase where your critical hit may lie, that's a big thing.
Right.
And that's one thing that we have to start changing our verbiage with. It is for a long time, 9th has trained us that we look at things as 6 to hit, 6 to wound, and those things are actually, that number value matters. A big part of 10th edition is now the critical, because that critical changes everything. Anti giving you to wound of that target at a critical can end up being devastating wounds now.
Yeah. Well, in 9th edition, it was basically everything triggered on an unmodified roll of whatever.
Right, that too.
And now now the thing that triggers something that critical could be modified. For example, if something happened to be anti-infantry 2-up, that means every wound roll of a 2-up against infantry is a critical wound. Anyways, back to the mission tactics here.
Sorry.
The second one is Malleus. Basically, you choose this once per game in your command phase, and your every weapon Shooting and combat gets the lethal hits ability. So critical hits automatically wound. You don't need to roll to
And
wound.
no restriction for vehicles or anything on there.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one is Pergadas Tactics. This is how you can snipe some characters, basically. You choose this once per game in your command phase and for the entire battle round. Every single hit roll of a 6, either shooting or combat, or every critical hit gains precision. So if you're shooting at a unit of Terminators with a bunch of anti-tank weapons, each critical hit, typically a 6 to hit, but if it's a critical to hit, you can take that and move that to the character as long as you can see the character. Precision requires that you be able to see the character. So if they're not hiding it, but for once per game, basically every single one of your hits that you roll a critical hit on, you can move it to the character in a unit if you want to. So you can snipe some characters.
So this isn't the first time I've seen this precision character once per game ability. And to me,
Does it have something like this?
What's up?
Do Tyranids have something like
I
this?
believe they do. I believe they do.
They can choose at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. But the thing is that I think that that specific one, the Pergadas Tactics, is both the worst and best of those abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It is the worst when it comes into I have to pick this for a turn, because 9 times out of 10, it's okay. I would say a little less than that because there's a lot of characters. We're seeing a lot of character possible functions that we can have in this game. It seems, I'm not sure 100% yet, but I feel like there is going to be a lot of attached units to gain these buffs because some of these buffs are absolutely bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
But at that same time, that's one that most of your units aren't going to benefit from. The lethal hits and the sustained hits, even in a poor situation, can do more than the precision hits in a poor situation can.
Well, that's the way I feel comparing this to the Space Marine combat doctrines. The basic Space Marine combat doctrines are powerful, but you don't need to use them every game. For example, if you played against World Eaters and you went second, World Eaters went first, you're not going to need advance and shoot because they're coming right at you. You don't need to move very far to shoot them. You're not going to need advance and charge because the World Eaters are right up in your face turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
So in that kind of game, you might use those and it might benefit 1 or 2 units, but it's not really something army-wide. The tactical doctrine, being able to fall back and shoot and charge, that would be useful in that situation. But I found with the Death Watch ones, sustained hits on your entire army, it's going to be useful to some degree in every single game, especially with Oath of the Moment, when you're going to be re-rolling hits and wounds. Getting extra hits is always going to be great.
So it's funny, I just brought up the Tyranid sheet just to look at that. And yes, the Tyranids do have that, if you targeted character unit, you get the critical hits on the critical hits are precision abilities. You basically just have better Tyranids ones because the swarming instinct is infantry and swarm units. It makes an attack and it targets an infantry and swarm. So they only get sustained hits versus infantry and swarm. They only get lethal hits versus vehicles or monster.
No.
And they get the precision hits versus character, which I mean, I guess when else are you going to use it?
They get it for the whole game. They choose one of these things and it's active for the whole game. So it's a little bit different.
Okay.
It's definitely different in that sense, but it's nice to be able to change up your tactics.
It is just funny though that you are like kind of anti-Xenos, and the first Xenos we see, you copying the rules. You're like, anything you can do here, let me show you.
Yeah.
Let me roll up my sleeves here and let's do. But with the Tyranids, you are able to use a stratagem to, in Synaptic Link, change that the hive of the hive ability at that moment in time.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to mention one more thing about the Pergadas one. The lets you target the characters. I haven't seen all the missions yet, but some missions do require or give you points for having characters on objectives. So not only being able to take out a character to weaken that unit, to lose its buff, but there will be, I think, Assassinate is a secondary that you can take. And then also some of the primary missions give you bonus points for having characters on things. So being able to take out characters, it'll be useful. It's not going to be useful in every game. I mean, against Imperial Knights, you're not going to need to target. You're not going to get precision is not going to be useful. So
at all.
but I think 70 or 80% of your games is going to be useful. So I think the Death Watch mission tactics are going to be more useful more often than the basic Space Marine ones.
Yes, and where I was looking at, and this is the segue going over into stratagems, is because now we're moving into them. I'm actually going to talk about adaptive tactics first, and this is where I think that combat mission tactic that you have becomes the best. Where it's like where I said it's the worst in a sense of your character situations, but here's where it becomes the best. Adaptive tactics is a 1 command point strat. When you use this is during your command phase. What you target is up to 2 kill teams or 1 Adeptus Astartes unit. So once again, this is where it comes. This is where your kill team, why you want to play Death Watch, why you want to run these kill teams is now for these stratagems that say, are you a kill team? Boom, you get these abilities twice for 1 command point. And what you get for this is basically for each of those targeted units, you get to select one of the mission tactics, and until the start of your next command phase, that mission tactic is active instead of the mission tactic that is currently active, which means that kill team that just got into position and is looking at a unit with a character and can see the character decides, hey, guess what? 1 command point. Does it have to be the same one for each unit targeted? Select
for each unit target,
yeah,
so it can be 2 different for 2 different units.
Yeah. So, talk to me about that one. You've seen Marines, you've seen Tyranids lightly, you've seen some other stratagems that have appeared online. We're starting to be able to build this, so we can start to formulate an opinion. That one right there.
Well, so we'll talk about this more later, but basically Death Watch are going to be super strong against infantry. And we'll get into the reasons why in a little bit here. But something they may struggle with is against vehicles. But being able to just pick 2 kill teams and give them Malleus tactics, which is lethal hits. So every 6 to hit is wounds. You don't need to roll to wound. That can give the army some much needed buffs towards killing harder to kill targets. As we'll get into, infantry is not going to be a problem, but it might be difficult when there's a whole lot of vehicles. This is going to help mitigate that some, because you'll be able to choose 2 kill team units where you can put a lot of weapons into 2 10-man kill team units. Like we talked about, they can have 4 heavy weapons, they can have 4 Terminators, and 3 of those Terminators can have their heavy weapons. So you can have 7 heavy weapons in a 10-man squad.
We're not even going to get to kill teams before you tell what these guys do. Lane is super excited.
I'm so excited.
They are. They're the mix and match. They really seriously are a bucket of Legos.
Yeah. But and so the adaptive tactics, I do want to mention Armor of Contempt really for us, just because it's the Space Marine one where it basically reduces AP by 1 on incoming attacks. That's taken from the Space Marine one, and every Space Marine chapter has it.
Yeah.
All the rest of these all the other Death Watch ones are the same thing, where it's 1 CP, but you can target 2 kill teams or just 1 regular Adeptus Astartes unit, which each of these threats. There's super value, and they're all going to be 1 CP, and it hits 2 units.
Yeah, that's brutal.
2 kill team units.
Especially with us having lower CP since you start with 0 at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and Death Watch don't have really a way to generate additional CP. You can take a Space Marine captain and put it into a unit, so you can do the thing where you use a strat for 0 CP with that unit once per turn, so you can do that. But other than that, we don't have any way of generating.
Really, the Watchmaster doesn't?
No, he does other stuff.
Okay. Well, we'll get.
But
to
I can take a captain. I can take a Watchmaster and a captain. So.
See, and the funny thing is, I talk about the Watchmaster. I honestly, he's the 140K model. I seriously can't take serious because I've watched Game of Thrones and I know the Night Watch and all that stuff. And I guess that's kind of like maybe where the concept is of a Death Watch Watchmaster. But man, I'm just thinking of a dude with a Rolex who's just hanging out there. Like he's in the 41st millennium and he's just popping his Rolex. Guys. He's like, he looks at these guys. He's like, I see you have a very large gun there, but I have this. That's a watch. Yes. And that's him. He is the
one of the relics is a key. So he's got watches and keys. This is some very basic equipment. Okay. Next one. Teleportarium.
Oh man. This is not cool. Not cool, dude. Not cool. So apparently, he's got taps into all the other Marine stuff, and he doesn't have enough from Adeptus Astartes, so he's got to go over into the non-Marine chapter of Grey Knights and come stealing our stuff. When you use this, the end of your opponent's fight phase. Up to 2 kill team units from your army or 1 Adeptus Astartes infantry, which that might actually be very brutal with that too. The effect is you remove those units from the battlefield. In the reinforcement step of your next movement phase, set each of those units up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from an enemy model. You cannot select any units that are within engagement range of 1 or more enemy unit. So you tag them, you're stuck. However, now the timing of all this stuff is very, very, very unique and very interesting. Talk to me a little bit about that. 1 CP, 2 units.
Yeah, it's super powerful. Obviously, you can move things into position, and then you still get to choose, your oaths of moment and your other mission tactics and that sort of thing. So you can really plan on when you're going to strike hard, and being able to move 2 to get them in range, get them eyes on their target is super powerful. It's also can be done turn 1, so you can't deep strike. You can't bring in from reserves turn 1 for most missions. But this kind of thing, because they're already on the table, if your opponent goes first, they move at the end of their fight phase, turn 1, jump, shoot.
Interesting. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
It says
remove
a reinforcement step. I don't know. That might be limited, depending on, because they don't say in the main rules about this. They say on the missions when things can come in from reserve. So, don't quote me on that one. It's still super strong.
Yes, because the unit is up into 2 kill teams, and it's remove those units in battlefield. It does not place them in reinforcement, but it says in the reinforcement step of the next movement phase.
It's reinforcement step, but it's not. It doesn't say they are reinforcements.
That'll be interesting. We'll have to look into that a little bit more.
GW, we demand clarification.
Hell rounds. Hellfire rounds.
Hellfire!
So I'm going to skip a lot of the extra stuff. You do it in the shooting phase. Target 2 kill teams or 1 Adeptus Astartes unit that is not a vehicle.
No vehicles.
This one can't target a vehicle. So you can pop a vehicle off with Teleportarium and drop it. I can teleport a Land Raider. I'm just
infantry.
Oh, it did say infantry. Okay. I got all excited. I mean, got to teleport a Land Raider.
DJ's trying to find all these new things to do with Land Raiders. It's the additional Land Raiders for DJ.
So this one is no vehicles, Adeptus Astartes unit. So probably some other things like mounted things and stuff like that, non-infantry.
I can take, because I can't put a whole lot of Eradicators into a kill team, I could still take a 6-man Eradicator brick if I wanted to. I can take aggressors. I can take a 6-man Outrider squad. I can do other things. So you can take other units that would be Adeptus Astartes and not kill teams, so you can use for one. So there are other things you can use,
Until the end of your phase, ranged weapons equipped with models in your unit have anti-infantry 2+ and anti-monster 5+. You cannot select any units that have already been targeted by blah, 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 blah. And the reason I say blah, 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 blah is because we're about to get into a section of 3 stratagems that basically are pick one, use one. Mm-hmm. You cannot overlap these 3 stratagems with each other.
Yeah.
And that's, that makes sense. That
obviously,
really makes sense.
They're super strong.
3 CP, I'm going to give you all the buffs.
Basically, these replace what used to be special issue ammo. Back in 8th edition, every bolter got special issue ammo, so when you shot it with Deathwatch, you could choose different profiles. One of the most common ones was a profile that wounded on a 2-up against anything that was not a vehicle. And then there were some other gave you extra AP, extra range, that sort of thing. Those were just built in. And then in 9th edition, they knocked that out of most of the bolt weapons. But now they're kind of bringing them back as stratagems, and they're super strong. So Hellfire, you become, it makes all the ranged weapons anti-infantry 2-up. So it's a critical wound roll on a roll of a 2-up.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's against monsters, not vehicles, just monsters, it's
fair.
Yeah, it's anti-monster 5-up. So on a 5-up, it's critical wound.
You guys are Xenos hunters.
Yeah, and so the lore of the Hellfire round is that it's full of acid and poison, so it's effective against living things, but not really vehicles and stuff. And there have been versions of Hellfire rounds that used to be a stratagem for heavy bolters, where for 1 CP it would do D3 mortals, and I think it goes way back to even like 2nd edition, where there's Hellfire rounds in some some aspect. But basically, it turns it into a critical wound. And so what we'll see later is that we can take a squad that puts out 32 shots that all have devastating wounds. So when you're doing critical wounds on a 2-up to wound roll, you can generate a lot of devastating wounds.
Now, to kind of speed through into the next two, because I kind of feel like that is the best one. I really feel like that is the hands down winner. That is going to be the one you're going to use more than any other.
Against infantry and monsters, yeah.
I think all around out compared to the other three, I think there's more. You're more likely to not use these and not use the Hellfire rounds than using one of these over the Hellfire rounds.
Oh, I plan to use these too.
Really? I'm interested to hear how.
So the Hellfire rounds, I'm going to have 2 kill teams that are based on anti-infantry. And for 1 CP, I can use it on the 2 of them. And then Kraken rounds, basically the same thing. Shooting phase, ranged weapons. It goes on 2 kill team units or 1 Adeptus Astartes non-vehicle unit. And it can't overlap with the other ones. It adds 6 inches to the range of your weapons and improves the AP by 1. This is a big deal because there are very few ways to manipulate your AP right now. They reduced the AP on everything, but remember, Space Marines lost their doctrines used to be additional AP buffs. So their weapons not only lost AP in the base for most of them, but they lost the ability to buff them in a lot of ways. And so this is what I was hoping for some way to buff AP. So I use the other stratagem, Hellfire against infantry. I use this one on anti-tank kill teams to buff the AP because now we know the vehicles can get cover if they're even partially obscured by ruins or hills. So giving this anti-tank kill teams extra AP is huge. The extra 6 inches, it might be useful. You might use it on something with flamers or something like that. But
when you say cover, going over into Dragonfire, you can just ignore cover with that.
Sure.
So there you go. I think Dragonfire is probably the weakest of them. I do think that there is situations where you can use it, where you need to get onto an objective. So you spend the command point to be able to still shoot with a unit that you advance with by giving it assault weapons.
Yeah.
And that's going to be cool. That's going to be unique.
Especially now that assault weapons don't take a penalty. So you don't take a movement, and it's not -1 to hit.
Right. I think this is going to be the one that you're going to probably just target one unit with. You're just going to look at it. You're going to look at a unit. You're going to say,
it's very situational. Like you said, get on an objective and still put out some
where
shots.
the other two are earlier game thing. I can see what you're saying with Kraken with that +1 AP.
For one of my kill team plans is to build a kill team that gets 10 crack missile shots. And crack missiles are only AP2. So going from AP2 to AP3. Yeah. Going from AP2 to AP3. And because if I want to use the strat, it's on 2 kill teams. So I have 2 kill teams with 10 crack missiles each. That's 20 crack missiles that go from AP2 to AP3. That will be relevant. Especially there's a lot of vehicles that are 2-up saves now. Like a lot of the dreadnoughts are 2-up saves.
I mean, there's infantry.
Your Land Raider 2-up save. Yeah.
Migraine. Now, it's 2-up save. We're looking at purgation squads. The purgation squad has a 2-up save on base stats.
Just the baby Marines.
So they're out of them. They may be 2-ups across the board on base stats there. And Custodes.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's get over into enhancements. For our typical games, 2,000 points, we'll be able to take 3 of these. How we take these, we're still not 100% sure. We just know we're allowed to take 3.
The rumor is points. You
That's
have to
what
pay
I
a certain amount of points
as well. Yep.
And maybe they're just free. Maybe you just pick 3 of them. I don't know. We'll see.
Probably not, because I have definitely seen there is. I definitely have seen there is a power creep. Like you can look at the tier, like I look at the Tyranids.
Oh, some of these are way more powerful than others. A lot of these will buff a single character and make them a little bit stronger in combat or whatever. And some buff entire units, some buff your entire army.
Why don't you pick with the least impressive?
Of
which
these
one
ones?
of these 3, which one do you believe is the least impressive?
Probably Thief of Secrets is the first one. You just pick a model, a single model, so probably a character, and you improve his strength, damage, and armor AP by 1.
Yep.
If that model kills a unit, then for the rest of the game, you improve those by 2. Obviously, on a beat stick character, that's pretty cool, but it's very situational because you got to get your character into combat. Then if that model, not his unit, that model kills something, you have to kind of finagle it so that the model is the one that does the final blow. Yeah.
And hopefully he doesn't have a similar weapon to someone else in the unit, in which case you have to couple him in with those attacks, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think you can still roll them one at a time in a sense, but you'd have to complete all those weapons at a time. So
I mean, if it's a 5-point upgrade, throw it on a character. Sure, if you got 5 points to spend, do it.
Fair.
Yeah, it's super cool. But next, we've got the Osseous key. This one's kind of limited because it's a limited range, but it's kind of cool because it just says
it goes to
no.
Watchmaster.
It says no. It's only for a Watchmaster or a Tech Marine. At the start of your opponent's shooting phase, select one enemy vehicle
Excluding
unit,
Titanic.
excluding Titanic,
I gotta get mine in there.
within 12 inches and visible to the bearer. That vehicle must take a leadership test. If he passes the leadership test, he's -1 to hit in his next shooting. Is it shooting and fighting?
That makes a attack each time the model in that unit makes an attack.
It's shooting and fighting. So if you've got a dreadnought or something, it's going to affect his close
And
combat
it's
attacks
unit.
too.
So if it's a vehicle, if it's a unit like Castle and robots and stuff like that, it's all
Yeah.
of them, not just the one.
Yep. And then if it fails the leadership test, it doesn't get to shoot.
Yep.
Sorry, not
So-
able to shoot the next phase. They're that phase. So obviously super strong when you can just say no to a vehicle. However, the character has to be within 12 inches of that vehicle.
Mhm.
A lot of times, if your unit is within 12 inches of that vehicle, you're going to try to kill it anyways. I guess this is during the opponent's shooting phase. So it certainly has uses. The Tech Marine, remember, can be attached to units,
Mhm.
so he can be protected if you don't have your vehicles real close. But 12 inches is kind of close. So you're probably looking at a vehicle that might be more close combat oriented anyway. So it's very situational, but it is kind of cool because they just say no. Sorry, you don't get to shoot.
Right. And again, if it's 5 points,
Yeah,
throw it on
sure.
the guy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
here's a couple things that I see for that. Number one, you need a Watchmaster or Tech Marine.
Mhm.
So let me ask you this real quick, just simple yes or no. Is Watchmaster a top tier character that you want to take competitively at this time?
I think I will. Yeah.
You think you will take him?
Yeah,
Okay.
obviously everything's points dependent, but
Tech
he
Marine.
has the ability to make an opponent's
Whoop, whoop.
stratagem cost extra.
We're gonna get there.
hold on a
We're
minute
gonna
now.
get there. Now, Tech Marine. Would you see yourself simple yes or no taking a Tech Marine?
Probably not, unless they're super cheap.
Yeah. And so with that being said, like you would have to take it on the Watchmaster.
Mhm.
And now with also with that Watchmaster we talk about, we're gonna be getting over to one of the best very shortly that you could take, which also has to go on a Watchmaster. But we have two more. I feel like Beacon Angelus is probably number 3 or number 2 since we're
Yeah,
counting up to the
Second best, right? Yeah. Beacon Angelus, you put it on
Anybody,
Yeah,
anyone
yeah.
in there. Yeah.
So
Adeptus Astartes model only.
models in the bearer's unit have deep strike. Cool. And you can use rapid ingress for 0 CP. So they just show up turn
Yeah.
1 anywhere outside
Not
of
turn
9
one.
inches.
Not turn
You
1.
can't do rapid ingress?
You cannot do rapid ingress on turn 1.
Okay.
Cannot do it on turn 1.
Good thing you're here.
Yep, that was one that has popped up all over the place, and it is in there. Basically, rapid ingress. You're not going to be able to do that on turn 1,
Okay.
so there's not any of that silliness there. But yeah, that's nice. That's nice to be able to.
Well, Adeptus Astartes model.
Mhm.
You know what an Adeptus Astartes model is, DJ?
Oh,
A Land Raider.
No, you have to take my characters.
Okay. It just says model.
Enhancement. Let's go on
You
characters.
can't have a
But-
character
That
Land
means you
Raider.
can put that on a lieutenant.
Yeah.
That means you can put that on apothecary. That means you can put that on any unit that doesn't have deep strike, that can attach to one of your units that you wish had deep strike,
Mhm.
and now they have deep strike.
Yep.
And it doesn't take away from some of the other things. Now, with that being said, how this all works with the character models being attached to the unit is everyone gets that. So when you go and take a heavy intercessors, because I love them, you take a heavy intercessor, you slap this guy onto the heavy intercessor, and you also slap a captain on there who is in Gravis armor. Guess what? He could deep strike too, because
Mhm.
now the squad can.
Yeah.
So you're gonna there. This is gonna be something that can kind of spiral into more work out of it.
Mhm.
And number 1, you know it, you love it, I hate it, I saw it. The Tome of Ectoclades. I'm not going to I'm not going to take this from you. Would you like to read and share this once per game thing that goes on a Watchmaster or a Captain?
Once per battle, after you have selected an enemy unit using the Oath of Moment ability in your command phase, the bearer can use this enhancement if they are on the battlefield. When they do, select a second enemy unit. At the start of your next command phase, each time an Adeptus is starting model from your army makes an attack that targets either of those enemy units, either of them, you can reroll the hit and reroll the wound. It gives you double Oath of Moment for one turn.
Yep. Yes. So
I don't care how many points it costs.
I feel like that's a 35 upgrade.
Oh no, for 35 points I get 2 Oaths of Moment?
Right. But and it's was that kill teams? That was on kill teams, right? Or is that just anybody? Oh no, it's Oath of Moment, so it doesn't matter. Yeah,
Everything.
You target the unit. Yeah, so you target the unit. So
Everything in your army.
Yeah. So would you say?
I mean, it continues the theme of Deathwatch, and the way I've always played them, the way they work is Deathwatch can hit real hard for one good turn, and it's still the same. 2 Oath of Moment units. Maybe you throw some Desolation Marines in there, maybe some Whirlwinds, so you got some indirect fire. You just 2 targets you can just toast in one turn, and a lot of them can be pretty big because the Oath of Moment can stack with your mission tactics, giving you lethal hits. If you reroll all hits, you're going to get a lot more lethal hits. If you use sustained hits, you're going to get a lot more hits that you can reroll the wounds on. It's going to be huge.
Now,
so
Tome of Ectoclase was a staple relic.
In 9th edition, it'll let you reroll all wounds against a chosen data sheet. So it could be multiple units that had the same data sheet, but it was only for core that were within 6 inches of the cut character.
Right. So now, and I felt like a lot of that was kind of one of the more. It was unique, it was cool, but it would get kind of confusing. And this is when we look at some of the rules and go, okay, this gets kind of confusing. And I don't even want to talk about looking at all the Marine data sheets and all the different abilities they have now. But one thing that did get kind of confusing with Deathwatch was you guys were one of the only armies in the game that data sheets mattered for a lot of different things. Like, oh, you could target this data sheet, this battlefield roll, this. And you guys were, I mean, it would almost seem like it was kind of like meta, like almost like meta pick. Like you weren't looking at the infantry and stuff like other armies were. You're looking at, oh, are you fast? Are you an HQ? Are you the same data sheet? And kind of basing it off that.
I mean, Deathwatch have always been a super toolbox army. They're very flexible. They're able to change things up. So that being able to reroll against a chosen data sheet meant I could choose it against Bellicor, one data sheet, or if someone brought 3, one time somebody brought 3 Void Raven bombers. And I shot all 3 of them off the table in one turn because I chose that data sheet. They all have the same data sheet. So I rerolled all wounds against all 3 of them. It definitely gives you that flexibility. The Oath of Moment is one target, but it used, the Ectoclase used to be, a data sheet. So against MSU armies, you could go into multiple units. Obviously, that changes now, but having one turn where I get to choose 2 different targets for Oath of Moment is super strong.
Right. So Tome of Ectoclades is going to be for almost an auto include.
Oh yeah.
Every single time. It's not
especially with all the mobility I have with the redeploy thing, the teleportarium stratagem where I can pick things up and move them. That's going to be huge because it just allows me to get one turn where I can get eyes on 2 really good targets and just wipe them out.
Right on. All right, well, it's data sheet time.
Data sheets.
So the first and foremost of the data sheets, which is the iconic, one of the iconic characters of the army, because you don't really have any name characters.
Yeah, Artemis.
Artemis. There's him. Watchmaster.
The Master of the Watch.
Master of Watches.
Rolex. He who stands the long vigil.
Yeah. Royal of the Rolexes.
He stole his weapon from the Custodes. He's got a spear that also shoots. He's got a gun spear. Not super impressive. It just does a little bit of work. But really, he's just basically a captain. He's firstborn, so he can only join firstborn Proteus kill teams or veterans. He can fight a little bit, shoot a little. Obviously, there's a couple of those enhancements that are only for Watchmaster or Captain, so he's good for that. His 2 big things are, number 1, strategic knowledge. While he's leading a unit, that unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in turns that advanced or fell back. So you can fall back, shoot, charge, fall back, shoot, charge, fall back, shoot, charge. It's not once per game, it's just every time.
Yep.
And then his other thing is once per battle, after your opponent uses a stratagem, if the Watchmaster is your warlord and he's on the battlefield, he can use this ability. If he does so until the end of the battle, increase the cost of that stratagem to your opponent by 1 CP.
Oh my god, end of battle?
End of battle.
Jeez.
So it's after they use it. So I think it doesn't cost them the extra the first time they use it. And then subsequently, the rest of the battle, they'll be costing them extra.
There's a mission rule that makes the command reroll strat cost 1 more during that game.
Yeah, 3 CP for the command reroll. I'm thinking,
Play him with my Warlord Titan. So then when they target me with a stratagem, it costs 4 times.
Right. That's fine. A couple places, some of the armies now have these reviving abilities. Some of them are built into the data sheets, like the Gene Stealer Cult. But I think Imperial Guard have a reviving stratagem where they just bring back a unit of up to, either a unit of up to 3 of the Sentinels, the Walkers, or 20 Guardsmen. And I saw it in a practice or a demo game. Making that an extra CP would be huge. Making that more expensive. Making Overwatch an extra CP would be huge, because Overwatch, now that you can use it all the time, basically at the end of any kind of movement, it can be super powerful. So making that cost more for somebody will be a huge pain.
Here's another 3-piece. Here's a 3-piece. A 3-wheeled spoke to this, where this goes around and comes around on this. One thing we're seeing with some of the units is they have access to generic stratagems at 0 CP and can still use if it's already been used. A unit that comes in mind is the Tyranid, the Von Ryan's Leapers. They can use the Heroic Intervention strat for 0 CP and can use it if it's already been used that turn, that thing. So in a situation where your opponent has multiple of these units, and they might want to base into that Heroic Intervention, you're trying to rush them. And granted, this is kind of less common of a scenario, but you can get where I'm going with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that 0 becomes 1. And now the battle plan of being able to use it multiple times for 0 across the board, boom, yeah, you got it that first time for 0, like you said. But now you're going to go across the board at 1, 1, 1, 1.
Yeah.
For everything.
There are usually some kind of limits on those. Like a Space Marine Captain allows a unit to use something for 0 CP. Well, any other unit would still have to pay the extra cost.
Mm-hmm.
So. Next is Watch Captain Artemis. He's got a cool little gun, but I'm not really excited about this guy. Obviously, he's super cheap. He might be a good option. Again, he can only go with Firstborn, so Proteus or Firstborn veterans.
He has Feel No Pain 6+. Does that?
Sure.
That's just for him, though, isn't it?
Just for him.
Yep. And because he is a named character, that means he cannot take. I believe he is not one that can take an enhancement. I'm not sure if that's.
No. You can only take one of them, but I don't think I even want one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fine. He's got 2 special rules: Tactical Instinct. It's like a variation of the captain thing, where you can target his unit with a strat even if they've been targeted. However, you can also target them even if they've been battle shocked. So I guess that's neat. If I was going to spend CP, I'd probably spend CP to make them not be battle shocked. For the heroic or insane bravery. And then he's also an unstoppable champion. If he dies, he gets back up on a 2-up with 1 wound left. So.
And I mean, the things that you're really going to be looking for to stand back up are going to be like your Contemptor Dreads. That's silly. Gilliman. That's silly.
Yeah.
Monstrous creatures, Swarm Lord. I don't think the Swarm Lord can, but theoretically, like those things that are really impacting to it. I mean, what's he got? He's 6 attacks, strength 5, -2, 2 damage. He's got the gun is okay. So his gun, I'm looking at for the first time. So let me see.
It's a super
lot
flamer.
of rules.
It's a super flamer, 12-inch range, D6 attacks, auto hits. It's torrent. So it's
anti-infantry, 4-up, devastating wounds.
Ignores cover. Yeah,
Ignores
it's AP
cover.
1. Yeah, it's just a neat flamer. It's an extra strong flamer.
Yeah, but he is an epic hero, and what's more, the Tome of Active Clay is way more important.
Yeah,
and that's going on your Watchmaster or Captain.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather take another generic Space Marine Captain who lets me use a strat for 0 CP. That's going to be way more valuable than this guy's business. So,
and since he can only join veterans and Proteus kill team, it's not even like he has that. Yeah, he's not. Sorry, Artie.
Yeah. Also, I have this model, but he's not painted, so it's another reason I'm not going to take him yet, because he doesn't have any paint on him.
Because you got to do work.
Yeah.
And there's other things you want to do work.
I got to paint up Terminators. Yeah.
Exactly, because Terminators. Here we go. We're going over into not quite the kill team we want to talk about yet.
Kill Team Cassius. This is the bespoke kill team. This unit originated in the Death Watch Overkill box game. It's very cool if you want an awesome hobby project because it's 8 or 9 models. Every single one is super detailed, very unique. Every single one has different war gear. It's just for narrative purposes, it's awesome. It's very fluffy. For competitive purposes, it's probably not great unless it's super cheap. But every single model in the unit is equipped differently. It's very complicated. I'm not going to get into the whole thing.
There is one thing that I find
it's very cool models. Yeah.
There's one thing I find interesting. On the second data sheet at the bottom corner, it says your army cannot contain both Chaplain Cassius and Kill Team Cassius.
Because he's part of the Kill Team.
Right, and I don't see a data sheet for him just by himself. So are we to assume that's what I'm wondering. Are we to assume that this data sheet that has Cassius at the top, that is the...
Oh, he's not in here as a character. You can... They only listed 2 characters, yeah. Because Cassius you can take him as an independent character in the current Deathwatch Codex.
Right. And
it may have just been an omission on their part. Because, right, like you said, right here, it says you can't take him and the Kill Team. But his data sheet's not in here.
And that's what I'm wondering. He maybe it is that...
Or maybe he's in the regular Marine data sheets, and he might have a special rule that says you can take him with Deathwatch.
I'll take a look at that. At that in a second. Yeah,
I'm not too worried about
it. Because there is characters in there for other factions. I'm disappointed Ultramarines is not one of these, but hey, I mean that'll probably happen later on. I'm just surprised. That one's kind of a popular one too. All right, Deathwatch veterans. So these are veterans. They are.
It says it right there in the name.
Yeah, they are the Deathwatch version. So tell me what is unique about these guys. So this is not getting into the Kill Team. They do not have the Kill Team special work.
No.
Oh, they do. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
these guys have Kill Team.
The Deathwatch veterans are just Firstborn Marines. The squad here, as you take it on this data sheet, cannot mix in Terminators or anything. I guess it's useful for certain things. They can take up to 4 heavy weapons. They only have 3 different heavy weapon options, though. The Infernus Heavy Bolter, which is a combination heavy bolter, heavy flamer. They also can take a missile launcher. They can also take the frag cannon. And like I said, you can have up to 4 of those for a 10-man squad, 2 per 5 men. And then you've got some other weapons in there. Oh my gosh, where are you?
I can go back over there. I'm just looking to see if we got Cassius. If he's in there.
One of the cool things that they have, one of the weapons they have is the Long Vigil ranged weapon. This essentially replaces all the old combi weapons. It is 1 shot, but it's rapid fire at 24 inches. So within 12 inches, you rapid fire 2 shots. Let me see here. Long Vigil range weapon. It's anti-infantry 4-up. Devastating wounds. That's super important. And rapid fire 1. So you could take 10 guys with this weapon. And it has devastating wounds, and it's anti-infantry 4-up. So basically, anytime you roll a 4 to wound with this against infantry, it's a mortal wound. And then obviously you can use the Hellfire round strat to go to anti-infantry 2-up. So if you get in close, if you deep strike, drop pod, jump out of a Rhino or something, or out of the Corvus Blackstar, you can jump out. If you're within 12 inches, you're going to get your rapid fire, so you get 2 shots. The squad gets 20 shots. And then normally each 4 to wound against infantry is going to be mortals. If you use the strat on them, each 2 to wound will be mortals. So it can kick out a few mortals in this case. You can, like I said, we'll get to the Kill Team a little bit later where we can mix in some Terminators.
Yes.
But yeah, they have a variety of weapons. They're cool. I'll probably be taking the Proteus Kill Team though.
Mm-hmm.
Deathwatch Terminator Squad, not really going to get into this because they don't get the Kill Team keyword.
Sadly.
Yeah, you can take 3 heavy weapons for a squad, whether it's 5 or 10 man. So you can get a 5-man Terminator squad with 3 heavy weapons. Kind of cool. But I'll probably just use Terminators mixed into a Kill Team.
I mean, this one is one that, even though they're not a Kill Team, to keep kind of considering on the back burner because of the fact, like you said, you can get the 3 heavy weapons in there. This is a deep strike target unit. And one thing I want to bring up, though, with these units, and I think this is going to be kind of a trend over many, many of the books and we see, it does have a little statement in here is that even though it's a Deathwatch Terminator squad, it says if a character could normally join a Terminator squad, it could be attached to the squad. And there's a couple of you. There's one in Blood Angels that intrigues me on how it's worded, and I will, if we get the chance to talk about it, I'd like to talk about in this. But moving on, veteran bike squad.
Yeah, not super interested in this. Again, I would put bikes in a kill team. I don't need a standalone bike squad. They do. You can take the long range, the long vigil ranged weapons with those same guns as before, but you can only take up to 5 bikes. It doesn't have the kill team keyword.
Once again, yeah,
I'm going to go for the kill team keywords in this. Corvus Blackstar.
Here we go.
I used this in 8th edition, and the Corvus Blackstar and Deathwatch kill teams, the frag cannons, are part of one of my favorite memories of 8th edition playing, because I had a game where I flew a Corvus Blackstar into the center of the table. I was playing against Tyranids, and the Tyranid player, Tyler, he said, I'm trying to see if I can make the Termagant carpet work. And so he had like 100 Termagants on the table.
Wow.
But I had 2 Corvus Blackstars with kill teams and a bunch of frag cannons. And there was a Stonehenge, a henge in the middle of the table, a big round piece of terrain with like the henge and all these little doors through it. So I flew the Black Star into the middle. Next turn, the kill teams got out and picked up 70 Termagants, 60 or 70 Tyranid models in a turn. It's fantastic. Anyways, I like the Corvus Black Star. Was not. Oh, there he is. I missed him.
That's why you missed him.
Oh yeah,
because he's an Ultramarine.
Scroll down to his second page.
All right, so I went through and we were looking at chaplain cases. Sorry to cut off on the Corvus Black Star because Dwayne has a lot. He's been talking about this, so we got a lot to cover with the flyer.
We'll get back to the Black Star.
Yeah. So you can. This guy. So went over to the Adeptus Astartes and as an epic hero, Chaplain Cassius, and there is nothing else. Nope. He just floats there. Okay. So now I'll stop bouncing around. I was just wanting to make sure there wasn't anything above him. He could have joined an assault squad, a command squad, a Stern Guard veteran squad, a tactical squad, a Tyrannic War veterans, or a Vanguard veteran squad. But here is the interesting part. He has the Ultramarines keyword. So he is actually not legally allowed to be taken in your Death Watch in that sense. You wouldn't be able to take him at all. You count on death. He gives out devastating wounds. Model gives devastating wounds. Yeah. He is not
weird.
Right, very weird. But I mean, you could.
He's even in his Death Watch armor.
Yep. But what you could take. But wait, I mean, yeah, it's really weird that he's all the way over to Ultramarines. I mean, you could technically still.
Well, the story of Cassius is that he was an Ultramarine, but he served in the Death Watch. The lore of Death Watch is that they take Space Marines from other chapters, and Space Marines who've done really well in their chapter will go and serve in the Death Watch. It's like an all-star team made up of. That's why everyone has a different shoulder pad.
You can see that in the Blood
and
Angels.
then they'll actually go back to their original chapter. So Cassius spent time in the Death Watch, which is why you'll see him in both. Like 9th edition, he was both in the Ultramarines book and the Death Watch book. But I think it's just an oversight here. I'm sure we'll get an FAQ saying that he can jump into
something. Yeah, maybe give him dual
as well.
dual faction,
dual citizenship,
Ultramarine slash Death Watch. Yeah, that's interesting. That's crazy. But maybe that's intended to be that way too. I don't know. That's just weird for how it is. But yeah, I agree. Maybe an FAQ to say, hey, he can be.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to planes.
Back to my spaceship. The Corvus Blackstar. It's a flyer, 20-inch move, toughness 10, decent toughness. More tougher than a Rhino. 3 up armor, 14 wounds, good number of wounds, 6 up leadership, 0 OC. It's a flyer. Don't really get any objective control.
Close combat weapon is called Armored Hull.
Yeah, he boops you with his hull. Yeah. He's got a few guns on him. Guns aren't super impressive. The twin length las cannon, so you get 1 las cannon shot, but it's re-roll your wounds, whatever. Then you can you can take twin assault cannons.
Again, oath of moments.
Yeah. Or you can take a missile. There's a couple different missile options, and then there's a hurricane bolter on it as well. So it also drops a few little bombs. Not really impressive. When it flies over something, roll 66 for each 5 up. It does a mortal. And maybe you do 2 mortals or something. Whatever. It can take war gear, either a Halo launcher where it gives it the smoke keyword, or you can take the Auspex array, which means its weapons ignore cover. I would probably take that one, ignore the cover, especially on the AP nothing bolters. Yeah. Well, because he's stealth. The thing is, he is stealth. So he's neg 1 to hit.
Okay.
Yeah. And then even.
So you can't stack the neg 1, so wouldn't it. Oh, so wouldn't you rather? Yeah,
Is stealth neg 1 to hit outside of 12 inches? I forget.
not sure. We'll have to look at that in a second.
Anyways, yeah. So the deal is, and if we want to scroll down here, we'll take a look at the second page. He is an aircraft, and I think what I would do with him so that I can deploy units from him right away is probably to put him in hover mode because he has a hover option. He loses the aircraft keyword, but he keeps the stealth keyword, so he's still neg 1 to hit. He'll just have a 20-inch move, and still has fly, and because he's not aircraft, because if you put him in hover, they lose the aircraft word, he can still hide behind ruins and hills, meaning you can't see him over that, even though he's a flying model. He's a wide model, so someone can probably move around and get some shots on him.
Yeah. It's going to be difficult to keep him hidden fully.
But there's the thing is that he still has 14 wounds. He's neg 1 to hit. And if I really want to keep him alive, I can use Armor of Contempt and reduce the AP by 1.
Yes, you can.
So the interesting thing is his transport ability. He transports 12 Adeptus Astartes infantry. Again, each jump pack counts as 2, Gravis counts as 2, Terminator counts as 2, Bikes count as 2, or Bikes count as 3. However, it has a caveat in here. It can transport 12 Adeptus Astartes infantry models or 1 kill team. So if you take a kill team with a couple Terminators, a couple Bikes, a couple characters, it's going to go over that 12 number, but it doesn't matter. If it's a kill team, no matter how many models are in it or how many slots it takes up with Terminators and Bikes taking up extra slots, you can still fit an entire kill team in there, which is cool. So you can put a kill team in there. So maybe I'll take 2 of these and put, something with some anti-infantry.
No, I have to kind of question that a little bit because when we look at some of the wording later on. Okay, so I see where you're saying it because it does say or 1 kill team.
Yep,
so it says 12 Adeptus Astartes or 1 kill team. But here's the interesting thing. So if it's an Adeptus Astartes infantry unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there is no Adeptus Astartes infantry unit that can also have mounted. So why do we have that the mounted costs 3 models if there's no other unit that would be able to take that mounted?
I don't know. If someone wanted to try and squeeze 2 5-man kill teams in there or something along those lines.
Interesting. That's what we'll have to check back onto it because this is where Games Workshop does a poor job of wording.
Yeah, I think when they say 12 Adeptus Astartes infantry and then they say these count as 3, I think you can put a 4-man Outrider squad in there if you wanted to. I don't know why. They move pretty good on their own. I'm not really worried about it. Just taking 1 kill team is the only thing that matters to me. I'm going to take 1 kill team. And I'm pretty obviously here that no matter what mix of models is in a kill team or how many characters you have attached to it, you can take a kill team. So it allows you to do that. There might be situations where you might try to put 2 3-man Gravis squads in there or something. You could do that because that would be 12 of the slots because each Gravis is 2.
But yeah, the one that catches me is the mounted. Because if you can't,
it's mounted. It's not infantry.
Because the only way that you could take the mounted to put that in the Corvus would be in the kill team.
Yeah,
and that would be the only reason I'd see for the 3. So I think this might be, but we'll see later on as people start asking that question more because it does say or. It does say or 1 kill team, and I played Magic the Gathering. I play those card games, and when you say or, you're stopping one into the other. And that's something that, it's not 12 Adeptus Astartes infantry models or 12 kill team, but at that same time too, are they meaning it as 12 Adeptus Astartes or 12? I can see the question on there because of the word or.
Yeah.
It's not and or up to or and that stuff. It's or kill team. So we'll see. You can't take he's not like carry he's not big enough to carry dreadnoughts, though, is he? He's not Stormraven Dreadnought.
Hey, don't squeeze your dreadnoughts in my Corvus. Keep your dreadnoughts out of my Corvus.
Wow. Oh, you're really salty about Dreadnought. You're like, oh, I don't like Dreadnoughts anymore since Forge World took them away. Oh, Dreadnoughts. Yeah. Proteus kill team.
Proteus kill team. Okay, so this is the firstborn kill team. It starts with a basis of 5 Deathwatch veterans, and then you can add a mixture of Terminators, Bikers, jump pack guys into it. And then any characters can be attached that would normally be attached to firstborn units. So this one can take, for every 5 men, you can take 2 heavy weapons. And you can take up to 4 Terminators. However, 3 of those Terminators can have heavy weapons. So you can squeeze, for example, I intend to try and build 2 anti-tank or anti-monster squads where they will have 4 missile launchers and then 3 Terminators with crack missiles, or with the 3 Terminators with the Cyclone missile launcher, and each of those gets 2 crack missiles. So that's 10 crack missile shots coming out of that squad. And what has been bouncing around the internet already today is that you can take 3 Terminators with 3 assault cannons. Assault cannons have devastating wounds. As their base profile, the devastating wounds only triggers on a 6 up to wound. However, then you can also take 7 Firstborn Kill Team veterans and give them the Long Vigil ranged weapon, which is Rapid Fire 1. So 2 shots when you're within 12 inches. And that's anti-infantry 4 up, devastating wounds. And then if you use the Hellfire round stratagem on that squad, everybody gets anti-infantry 2 up, and all those weapons have devastating wounds. So any 2 up to wound against the infantry generates a mortal against the infantry. So that would be, if you're within 12 inches, that's 7 rapid fire 1s, that's 14 shots there, and then 3 assault cannons, which are 6 shots apiece, that's another 18, so that's 32 shots. Put that into your Oath of Moment target. You're going to be re-rolling all hits. You will be re-rolling all wounds, and any 2s to wound against infantry generate a mortal. So we're talking probably in the neighborhood of 25 mortal wounds against an infantry target. Hellfire also does 5 up anti-monster 5 up. So if you shoot a monster, which I think is most of the demons, a lot of Tyranid stuff, you'll be anti-infantry. So when you roll a 5 up to wound, it'll generate a mortal. It becomes immortal because it's devastating. And again, if you're an Oath of Moment target, you can reroll all your wounds.
You know, I thought Games Workshop was trying to simplify this game, and instead we look at this, and this is the first of like the kill team based data sheets. And wow, there's a lot on this data sheet.
If you want simplified, you don't play Deathwatch. Deathwatch is not a beginner army.
Right, there's a lot. Where do you want to go?
I'll just go up a little bit here.
Okay.
And then the unit has a special rule. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets a unit that is not below half strength, add 1 to the hit roll. So they get +1 to hit anytime they're shooting something that's half strength or higher. So that's pretty spicy, especially when you're dealing with. I mean, let me see here.
When you're doing that first volley, the first volley, and you want to hit, you want to bring that hammer down on that unit.
Yeah.
There it is.
And remember, this can stack with your mission tactics. So either with a stratagem or when you choose your mission tactic, if you have sustained hits, everything gets sustained hit 1. So if you've got 32 shots, you're going to get an average of 5 6s there. So that's 5 extra hits. And if you're re-rolling all your hits, you're hitting on 2s, you can just fish for 6s. You're going to get a lot of extra hits, and then that's going to kick those mortal wounds up even higher.
Also want to bring to note your Deathwatch Thunderhammer is still damage 3.
So people have brought this up, and I think people are like, oh, it's better than the Space Marine Thunderhammer. Allow me to take a sip on my beverage.
It is Strength 10, AP 2, 3 damage, hitting on 4s, and 3 attacks.
Yeah, it's better than the Space Marine Thunderhammer because it's a 2-handed weapon. It exists right now. It's called the Heavy Thunderhammer, and the model holds it with 2 hands. A regular Thunderhammer can be held with 1 hand. You can also have a ranged weapon or a storm shield or something the other hand. The Deathwatch Thunderhammer is stronger than the regular Space Marine Thunderhammer, but you get no ranged attack with it. You only got the Thunderhammer. So that's the trade-off. It's strong, of course. It's stronger, but you sacrifice one of your arms, one of your slots for a weapon.
Would you say, is the Proteus kill team up there probably as one of your favorites of the kill teams?
My first army list will have 4 Proteus kill teams.
Oh, man.
I would say,
okay, that's a yes.
So, yes.
Fortis.
Fortis kill team is the regular Primaris kill team. This is Primaris Intercessors, Hellblasters, Assault Intercessors, and Outriders.
Yeah, it is.
They use some different terminology here. If it's a Hellblaster, they say it's an intercessor with a plasma incinerator.
Okay.
Just because you don't get the special rules from the standalone units, I think they wanted to distinguish it that way. But it's 0 to 4 Hellblasters, 0 to 4 intercessors with assault intercessors, and 0 to 2 outriders.
These are all the guys on foot. These are the intercessors that are on foot.
And then the outriders are the outrider bikes.
Okay.
Part of the issue is that Space Marines lost combat squads. And one of the things we did in 9th edition is I would take this unit, I'd take 5 intercessors, 5 outriders. I could keep them together if I wanted to, or I could combat squad them and split them and have the outriders shoot off on their own. You can't do that anymore. 2 things, you can't combat squad anymore. And in this kill team build, you can only have 2 outriders. I don't know why it's only 2, but they put some limits on these. This is part of the reason I'm really probably just going to focus on the Proteus kill teams. I have a bunch of these models built. I need to build some Terminators, but they really limit in this edition how many models you can add. So Fortis kill team, I think this gets +1 to hit if the enemy unit is less than half strength. So your Proteus can get +1 when it's more than half strength. Fortis gets +1 when it's less than half strength. Neat. I probably won't be running them these. If you want to run them, go right ahead. You get some Hellblasters you want to use. Cool.
Okay, so this is where the Hellblasters would go. Okay.
Yeah. Up to 4 Hellblasters can join this. Then we have the Indomitor.
This is honestly, from playing against you and all the games that we played before, especially when we were doing the Armies of Renown with it, this is my favorite kill team.
Yeah.
This is the one that I personally like the most out of it. No, I'm not going to start playing Death Watch. He's got this covered. But this was the one that I like the most. So we'll get into this.
These boys are thick. Now, this is the heavy intercessor, the Gravis armor kill team. Again, in 9th edition, you could take 5 heavy intercessors and then any number of eradicators, aggressors, or the inceptors, the jump back ones.
5 was what I seen mostly.
Yeah, usually because you want to focus on something specific. If you want to go anti-tank, take the eradicators. Now, this time they limit it. You can only have 2 aggressors, up to 2 aggressors, up to 2 eradicators, and up to 2 inceptors. And again, they give them the different names. It's heavy intercessor with jump pack or heavy intercessor with melter rifle.
Heavy intercessor with power fist.
That's the aggressor.
Yep.
Because it says here with power fist, he also gets the flamethrower gauntlet, or can switch it to the bolters. Yeah. Again, because you're making the squad so it doesn't really focus well on a single target. Although if you take plasma inceptors and you take 2 plasma inceptors and 2 eradicators, you obviously would have some anti-tank ability, but still, because you can't combat squad and because you're limited on the number of models, I'm not super interested in it. It depends on points and pricing and everything. That's why I'm focusing more on Proteus probably.
Right, because you're going to have to take the 5 heavy intercessors first of all. And I'm a big fan. I love the heavy intercessor. But for me, if I'm taking the 5 heavy intercessor, I'm taking the 10 heavy intercessor. And then I'm taking the characters that go with the 10 heavy intercessor. Mm-hmm. And at this point, you're looking at this and go, yeah, you can take them if you want heavy intercessors, you can take the 10 as a kill team. I could see slapping the 2 aggressors into there because of the Flamestorm gauntlets and that stuff. I could see that, but then when you get over to the jump packs and the melter rifles, it's like now you're really talking about different targets than what the heavy intercessors are originally going to shoot at. And what we've seen from your doctrines, the heavy intercessors by themselves would seem like the better option. And then with that being said, when we start talking about kill teams, then it's ranked. It's like if you're just taking the Indomitor kill team by itself, not terrible, maybe heavies with aggressors, but now compared to your Proteus kill team, it's like why am I trying? Why even try there?
Yeah, people might find out some secret sauce that makes them cook better than what I'm thinking right now, but I'm not really excited about them. I'd rather it's probably the same points to just take a 6-man Eradicator squad and do the work. You don't get the benefit of being a kill team, but you can still put a Gravis captain with it and use those strats for free with a Gravis captain on that unit. So I'd rather do that than having 5 heavy intercessors and 2 Eradicators. I don't know.
Now this is one that I think actually has some play because I've been looking at these guys and I still got a little bit of work to do going into Space Marine book, but I think that there is some secret sauce behind the Reavers. And I think like with some of the characters and what we've seen so far and what characters can be attached, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because when you start looking at stuff, you go, oh, I can attach a lieutenant with this and with that, and doing all this stuff. Some of those don't match as well. Mm-hmm. And when I'm looking at the characters, I'm looking at stuff, there's something there with the Reavers. It really is. And I need more time to actually sit down and dig into it. And here might be part of what I'm seeing, Spectrus kill teams. So the Spectrus kill team is your Reavers, your Infiltrators, and all that stuff.
That's your sneaky gets. It starts with the basis of 5 Infiltrators. And then you add other Phobos models onto it. Some of these are models that aren't technically Phobos, but still, the idea is that they're Infiltrators. So you can mix in Incursors, you can mix in Suppressors now. You weren't able to do Suppressors before, but now you can do up to 2 Suppressors. You can do only 2 Eliminators. These are the Bolt Sniper Rifle or Las Fusils. You can do 2 Eliminators. This doesn't seem super effective. You can do Reavers or you can do Incursors. The unit as a whole gets both. If you want to scroll up a little bit for me here, it gets both Infiltrators and Scout 6 inches, so it can forward deploy and then also gets the 6-inch pregame move. I don't know a lot of units that get both of those, so that's kind of interesting because you can forward deploy, and then if your opponent goes first, you can move defensively. If not, you can move offensively. The Helix Gauntlet gives the unit a 6-up feel no pain, so they got a little bit extra durability.
Here's your regaining CP.
Yeah, I mean, Infiltrator comms ray. Each time you target this unit with the strat on a 5-up, you get a CP. I'm not impressed.
I mean, it's a kill team. It's a kill team, so you can use that strat to target them and someone else. And
in 9th edition, I would take this and take the 5 because they don't get the 12-inch deep strike deny. Which in 9th edition, I would take this. I would take 5 Infiltrators and 5 Las Fusils Eliminators. I could kill team them if I wanted to. As long as there was 1 Infiltrator in the unit, you got a 12-inch deep strike deny bubble. This unit doesn't get that, so that's kind of a bummer. And then it can only take 2 Las Fusils now or 2 Eliminators. So again, I'm just not impressed with the build. It's got some utility because you can, like I said, you can both forward deploy with Infiltrate, you get the Scout move, but other than that, I'm not super impressed. I'm just going Proteus guys, going old school, first-born Marines and Terminators. That's the way we're going.
Nice.
That's the way I'm going.
Nice. Yeah, I can get where you feel from that because like you ran a lot of the heavy Eliminator with the Las Fusil, and that was your shooting backbone to your army.
I mean, they were super good because they're flat 3 damage. Super strong. That's why I ran a bunch of them, and because their ballistic seal was 2, and because they could infiltrate, and they could get eyes on good targets, all that good stuff. They're super useful. Most Marines can only take 9 of them because you could take 3-man squads, but Deathwatch could put them in kill teams, so I could take a bunch of them. Sometimes I'd have 18 of them in an army, but
regular Reavers just only get the Scout.
Yeah. So there might be some utility play in there, but there's already the teleportarium strat where I can jump guys around, so I don't feel like I need the additional movement, especially because I plan to use the Corvus Black Stars. I'm going to have some board presence. So, if you want to run, go ahead, try. And tell me all about the magic way you run them that makes them make sense. Right. Again, maybe their points are super cheap. I don't know.
Right, and there might be some magical tech with it too.
Yeah.
Because one of the big things that we have to look at with the Marines right now is we need to start now going back in and looking at the base level characters that are not included with the Death Watch that may have functionality in the Death Watch.
Yeah.
Seeing some of the different abilities, some of the different characters you can stack, and some of the psychic powers, et cetera, going into your army. Because the only thing that you're restricted from is basically firstborn Marines. Everything else is legal. So, I mean, honestly, I think you need to just take 3 Land Raiders right away. I think that's the winning list right there is 3 Land Raiders and then 3 Land Raider Crusaders. And then
3 more Land Raiders?
Yeah, 3 Redeemers. I think that's the competitive winning list right now is just fill it with Land Raiders.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I'm going to give you some super powerful advice that if you stuck with us this far into this video, congratulations, here's your prize, is that Space Marines are going to be one of the first codexes. They might change everything on us in a month or so. We don't know how long rules will be completely valid. Maybe the codex just gives us other detachments and keeps all the data sheets the same. Maybe it changes everything. I don't know. So don't spend too much money on too many models right away. Don't buy 9 Land Raiders. Don't listen to DJ until we get our codex, and then you can buy all the Land Raiders you want.
Now, let me give you the true pro tip here. You need to go out and buy 9 Land Raiders and then buy 9 more Land Raiders. And then when your friend says that they don't have any Land Raiders, you need to donate him 9 Land Raiders so that they can run 9 Land Raiders. And we're all just going to have a party with a bunch of Land Raiders. Just a Land Raider fight fest. How many Land Raiders do you own?
0.
And this is why, man. This is why, man. This is stuff.
Land Raiders in this economy?
Yeah, right. Right.
How much do they cost?
Yeah, right. I only have 2. I got 2 for my Grey Knights. So, in which apparently, according to this, once again, I love how people like to say, I play Grey Knights. They're like, oh, that's your Marine army. No, Grey Knights are not Marines. We don't have Adeptus Astaris keyword.
No, well, at the moment.
We don't get Oath of Moment. And with this, all the Marine chapters, we're not a part of it. We're Adeptus Sanctus. We're not Marines.
Your armor even works differently because your firstborn guys get a 2-up too.
I mean,
apparently the Brigada squad.
I want to see if that's I want to see if that's going to be across the board. If that's going to be a 2-up across the board.
Is that a misprint or is that just the way it is? 2-up all day long.
Yeah, I mean, I could see maybe the Strike not having it, but the Purifier and the Purge. But I think that it's just going to be a 2-up. I mean, it's not that bad. Like what it used to be with having a 2-up regular save. I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, this is just a 2-up in. This is just a 2-up save as opposed to like a 2-up invuln. You know, I mean, there's AP.
Who said anything about 2-up invuln?
Right. Oh, well, I mean, like back when, like you get hit by different guns, and it's like that 2-up tanked all day. Like back when AP was, you had to get down to the armor value to eliminate it.
Yeah.
So I don't think the 2-up, especially with how cover works now.
It depends on points, and what I've noticed from the Grey Knight release is that they're super mobile and they're super durable, but they don't seem like they hit particularly hard.
No,
So
not at all. Not at all. And the ways that we're going to hit hard is going to be through funneling and psychic powers and buffs. And we're going to need to be able to pick up and reassemble multiple times, because if not, then we're just going to lose resources all over the place. And that's one thing I do like about your setup.
I was going to say, these people have stuck with us for a long time now. I don't think we need to talk about Grey Knights in addition to Death Watch. But your time will come, DJ, but this is not the day.
Yeah, end of the week.
A day will come when we talk about Grey Knights, but it is not this day.
Well, then I want to say this. I still hate the Imperial Guard banner.
Okay.
And I'm probably, but hopefully that's gone. All right, Lane is right. We have made one heck of a video going into this. Hopefully you guys have stuck with us this long for it. It has been a lengthy video talking about Death Watch. And yeah, we'll get another video again soon that we can, when we start getting these armies together and stuff like that. Probably the next time we talk about Death Watch will be, all right, here's my army.
Yeah.
Let's get ready to go.
Yeah.
Guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. Hopefully you did enjoy this lengthy video. Maybe it got you through a work day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.